Greetings and salutations. So I mentioned this before in previous videos that the whole point of this YouTube thing was as a well, it kind of evolved into something. It's something I should have done ages ago and never did. The so all the writing that I've been doing, I bounce back and forth between this project and that project and this project and that project, and I'm meandering about the projects. And so one of the problems I ended up having was editing and re-editing and revising and re-editing and revising and revising and revising until I've rewritten the first chapter a dozen times, but didn't get anywhere else with the rest of the piece of fiction. And so I came up with this clever idea. Well, why don't I revise and read it out loud? Read it out loud as a means of editing, because some things translate verbally differently than they do in the brain, because your brain is kind of automatically adjusting things that, well, that adjustment doesn't necessarily work out so well verbally. So the idea of the flow of words coming out verbally out loud doesn't sound right. And I'm not a talker. I'm not a big talker. Most of my close associates and family know that I'm not generally a big talker. The quiet, silent type. He was a quiet man. I'm not generally a talker. So it gives me a reason to encourage verbal fluency. And that's what got into the idea of doing a podcast. So I would read out parts and pieces of my fiction as it progressed into the final editing phase. And I would put it as a podcast. Well, you have all this camera gear because of the car show photography that you do. Well, why don't you make videos? This is stuff I should have done ages ago and never did. Why don't you take video of the process of you drawing and then read your story on top of that? And that was a good idea. So that was one of the things I started to do. And I appreciate the amount of work even my crappy videos take to edit. If editing could be called what I do, editing. And that's kind of the evolution of the YouTube channel. The Instagram was just a lark. Someone I knew from work who was big into drawing mentioned, what was it? Inktober? Some drawing challenge in October, through the month of October. And so for shits and giggles, I decided, well, why not? I started my Instagram in 2017. Again, these are things I should have done ages ago and never did. Treating things as a hobby more than as a profession, something, again, that should have been dealt with ages ago. But that's the evolution of the YouTube channel. And so, for the most part, that's still the main objective. So, everything previously placed on the YouTube channel is going to be kind of the forward, the introduction, I suppose. And everything hereafter is going to be, I don't know, maybe a little less formal. The reading is not going to be audiobook quality. That's not the point. If I were to go through the egregious amount of effort to create a YouTube channel reading, as in regard to audiobook quality, then it seems counterproductive to do it for free because of the amount of effort involved. And there's a great deal. I have, let's see, the current draft. It's ridiculous how many projects I have that are just on the verge of finishing. And why all this sits on my computers, it's just stupid. It's a waste of time unless I get it out there. So the point with this is not so much to generate a audiobook as it is just to informally read the fiction in connection with the artwork that's being shown on the screen. Call it a long-form artistic advertisement to the fiction that's going to be put for sale. The other thing too is the what to do with the short fiction. Whether or not to place it as an anthology and make it available for free individually. I do have a Substack. I will eventually post it here. It's windy outside. You hear the walls creak. But for the most part, the larger fiction is going to be available on things like the Amazon Kindle, Apple iBooks. But that is when the things get finished. So keep in mind, this is informal. It's not an audiobook quality reading. And that will be the follow-up video. So there's a previous video that was done where you see my skunky face reading some of the initial chapters of The Carriers. That was an experimental video. I really hadn't planned on posting it, but I figured, what the hell? It's done. Why not just post it? So the follow-up will be reading the Rules of Burden. So every chapter is going to be marked with a rule of burden. The rules of burden aren't in numeric order. They're in order with whatever subject, there's a detail or subject within that chapter that pertains to the rules of burden. There are going to be rules of burden that are going to be peppered throughout certain chapters. So there are going to be a lot more rules of burden. And when the final draft is done and processed, there will be a final list of the rules of burden. And the thing with the rules of burden is a part of their key to the plot. And this is, you know, if you read through the list of the rules of burden after the fact, you'll notice that an awful lot of the rules of burden contradict themselves. And that seems to be kind of paramount for anything that's authoritative or government-oriented. And there's this group of people who are in charge of the catacombs in the Carriers, who are known only as the administrators, and they're rarely ever seen. Anyway, so each video is just going to be one chapter. They're going to be varied, short, medium, short, medium. They're not going to be too drawn out. It's either make them short videos of each chapter or make it one huge long video of the entire thing. And I don't have the attention span or the patience to do it in one long thing. So, on that note, thank you for watching, and keep an eye out for the videos following here. The first chapter of the Rules of Burden, the first chapter of The Carriers.